Oh, okay, alrighty. Scythe. Like, this is something I will always be, like, disappointed about, like, not really, like, liking. Here's the thing, like, I thought the world was super cool, really unique, the premise that, you know, like, we have basically cheated death, and now you need, like, scythes to go and, like, keep the population under control. Like, I think that's really cool. It's just that, like, I didn't like the characters. I didn't like the two main characters. I just thought they were very, like, generic and just meh. So it's therefore I'm putting it in the meh tier. So the next one is Stardust, which is not a series. It's a standalone by Neil Gaiman. I actually also think that this is one of those series or one of those books where the film adaptation is better than the book. I enjoyed the book, but I think like the changes they made to the film like benefited the story. So I'm kind of between like good and meh, but I think I'll go with good. I'm gonna go with good. So yeah.
Next is Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden, which I'm also putting up here in God tier because this is, I think between Red Rising and Bear and the Nightingale, these are like my two all-time favorite series. And I don't say that lightly but like this exceeded my expectations in every way. Like Bear the Nightingale and also its two sequels, like Girl in Tower and Winter of the Witch. This is like one of the only trilogies that I can think of where each book got better than the last, and like the third book had a lot to live up to. It had really big shoes to fill, and somehow it exceeded my expectations. It was a perfect conclusion, and I couldn't be happier with the way it ended. And Catherine Arden, like this is also her debut book, and she blew me away. Like her writing is amazing, and she did so much research, and there's so much love for the history and culture of Russia in here, and you feel it. It just feels good, and it's a good atmosphere. And the main character, like, it's kind of a coming of age story because you watch her grow up throughout these books, and I love her so much. It's a good, perfect trilogy to me. And yeah, next we have Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and it's gonna pain me to say it, but I would have put it in like Almost God had it not been for the second book that came out last year. And now I think it's in Good. And that's really painful for me to say because I loved the Poppy War. Like this book, like it was a great start, and this was her standalone book, and it was amazing, and I really loved it, and I was so hyped for the second one. But the Dragon Republic just was such a letdown to me, and mostly it was just because like a lot of it was just the main character Rin moping and being angry, and she was just kind of useless throughout most of the book, and it was so sad, and I just felt myself like, get to the point, like, get to the ending, and it was really dragging, and the ending made me, like, excited for, like, the last book. Like, I do want to still see how it ends, but it just, oh, man, like, that second book was just, such a downgrade. So sad. Yeah.
Oh, and Narnia. Have you read Narnia?
I read 2 of them, but
okay.
I haven't finished them.
I have also not finished them. I read the first... Well, I read the one before Narnia. I think I probably read, like, 4 or 5 of them.
Well, they're...
Because it was, like, The Magician's Nephew, Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe, The Boy and His Horse.
The Horse and His Boy.
The Horse and His Boy.
Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Voyage of the Dawn Treader, Prince Caspian.
Yeah.
And I think those are all the ones I read.
Okay.
But... Yeah, for me, I'm surprised actually by the amount of them I read because, like, I read them when I was probably, like, in junior high, like, 7th, 8th grade. Mm-hmm. And I loved the movies at the time, and so I was like, I'll read the books, and I really didn't like the style of writing because it's more that fairy tale, like, let me tell you a story style. And I didn't like that. And it was also just, like, weirdly off-putting to me at the time that there were, like, other books in between, like the Pevensies story, and, like, the books, like, didn't work the same way as the films did. Like, that really just, like, threw me for a loop, and, like I remember reading, like, the the horse, or the boy and his horse, or the horse and his boy, whatever, whichever way it goes. And I was just like, why is this here? And like, I could not tell you anything that happened in that book. Like, I don't remember any of it. And then my mom finished the series before me, and she's like, wow, that was whack. And so I was just like, I'm not going to finish it.
Yeah, I do want to finish it. And I did like the first 2 books that I did read, which is The Magician's Nephew and Chronicles of Narnia. I did like those, but I know how it ends. I've been spoiled, and I'm not happy.
Yeah, no.
I'm not happy at all. And again, with what you said, like, you've mentioned that you hate it when authors change perspectives with each sequel. And it's kind of what C.S. Lewis did with the Narnia books, where it goes from the Pevensies and then to Eustace and Jane. Is that her name? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, Eustace and then, like, their other perspective, and it's like, I don't care.
But at least that one was more of, like, a transition.
Yeah.
But for me, it was, like, that horse one. It was just really random, in my opinion. And I did enjoy, like, out of probably all of them I read, I probably liked The Magician's Nephew the best.
I agree with that, yeah.
I would watch
Which
a movie of
surprised
that.
me.
I would watch a movie adaptation of that.
Well, that one would work because it's a prequel.
Yeah.
So it would totally work.
And
it makes
they
sense.
were supposed to. I think it probably got put on hold forever.
Yeah, like,
but
the movies are weird because, like, I loved Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I loved it, and I was okay with Prince Caspian. Like, it was one of those sequels where it's like, I like it, but it's not as good as the first one. And then Voyage of the Dawn Treader, I despised.
Traitor.
Well, Treader.
Like,
yeah,
I
know.
Traitor.
But anyway, thinking of Trader Joe's, just like how much I miss it. But, like, I didn't like Voyage at all, and I don't like Eustace, and even I didn't read the book, but like if he's anything like he was in the movie, I'm not gonna like it. I just know I won't. So anyway, where should we put this?
I don't want to say it's bad. I would say meh.
I would, okay, yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I
DNF'd this.
Yeah, I understand why. I mean, I felt so misled with this book because it promised something really interesting, which is like, you know, like a fight to the death between these 2 magicians, and it takes place in this really cool night circus. And it like moves from place to place but disappears the next day, and there's magic and all this cool stuff happening. And then the magicians, like, end up in a forbidden love, and they don't know that they're each other's opponents. But then I read the book, and it was like that's only a quarter of it. Most of it is just this very, like, you're taking in the atmosphere, and a lot of it is just long stretches of descriptions of this damn circus, and that's fine. But like, I read the blurb, and it promised me something a little bit more fast-paced than this, and so I felt misled. Did not care for it, although the writing was beautiful enough for me to want to continue reading more Erin Morgenstern. But for now, I'm going to put it in
I think I was, like, over 100 pages into it, like, maybe, like, 120, 130 pages, and I don't think the 2 main characters have even, like, met yet.
Yes!
And,
yeah,
and it's just, like, can we at least, like, you know, hurry this along, because, you know, like, you still need time to develop their relationship.
And, like, most of it is like, them... They barely interact. Like, first of all, it's an insta-love, and then once they do meet, like, they're not even in the same location for, like, a majority of this book, and most of their love for each other is just, like, them finding an attraction that they added to the circus, and then the other one being like, oh, this is so beautiful, I'm gonna make this thing in your honor, and then the other person is like, wow, this is beautiful, and then they just kind of one-up each other and, like, adding, like, really cool attractions to the night circus, but it's like, that's not enough to hold up a book for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, oh boy. Girlfriend. Well, I think we know where this one's going. Right to trash. Why do people like this book? Like, I did not understand the hype. We both read this at the same time. And we were just, like, laughing by, like,
we were laughing at it.
Yeah, we're not, like, I don't know what to say about it. I don't.
I think you're harder on it than I am, because, like, when I read it, like, it was, like, it was entertaining in the worst way possible.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't, like, it didn't make me angry. I was just kind of confused by it because it was just kind of like the most, like, tropiest YA book that I've read in a long time. But I think, like, it made you angry just because you expected at least, like, the bare minimum.
I don't know if I'm, like, angry about it. I'm more baffled, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised, like, why, like, as to, like, how this series got as popular as it did and, like, why so many people like it, because I thought it was just very, like, tropey, and, like, the main character was not very well written, and what's the other guy, the bully?
Cardin.
Yeah, Cardin. Like, I just thought it was, like that conflict, it was just so, like, petty, like, high school bullying, and then, you know, like, what is her, Jude? Like, she's always just made out to be, like, the victim when she didn't really need to be victimized.
And she's so stupid. Like, she's such a dumb main character because a lot of her decisions are just so questionable, and it's like, I don't know what logic went through your head. And it's like, we're in her head. It's in first person. And it's like, I don't know, like, how you came to the conclusion that this would be a smart decision because, like, anyone with, like, half a brain cell rolling around in their head would be able to tell you that this was stupid. And I'm not, like, she's just a dumb character.
Yeah, like, I didn't, like, find the world all that fascinating. It's like, what, Cardin's supposed to have, like, a tail or something? And I'm not like, oh, wow, cool world building. I'm like...
Yeah, because it's just so jarring as two people who don't go out of their way to read, like, fairy-inspired books or, like, fae books. Like... It just kind of, I think, took us both by surprise when we're reading it, and it's just kind of like a typical fantasy world, and then all of a sudden Holly Black is like, oh, Jude looked over at the prince, and he had goat legs, and his shorts were cut off so that you could see his goat legs.
Oh,
and it was like, what?
Can we talk about the time that she used a giant frog for transportation? Somebody just visualize that for me, and tell me why you think that's good. Like... What?
Yeah. I don't get it.
No.
Yeah. A lot of throwaway lines like that.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Lord of the Rings trilogy by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is a classic fantasy book. This is probably the fantasy book that's, like, even gave fantasy, like, the fantasy genre any credibility with the public. So I have an immense respect for this book series, and the movies are great, and I don't know if the effects still hold up, but, like, it's you know, like, they did a great job with the casting, and they actually filmed on location. Like, I have an immense respect for the movies, too. So this, like, The Lord of the Rings, like, in every sense, is just so, like, admirable, but, like, you actually read it, and it's like, oh, it's a lot of trees. So, I'm gonna say it's great, and I think that's being generous because it's like it's good, but, like, it is from a different time.
I would put it somewhere in between, like, good and meh, because for me it is very, like, dense, and, like, there's a lot of, like, it is dense because, you know, like, you can tell J.R.R. Tolkien spent a lot of time developing this world, but it's like when there's a whole page of text in Elvish, I'm like,
It does have a different feel in the writing because it's way before our time.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed some of it.
I enjoyed some of it. Like, I think I would not have liked it as much had I not watched the movies before I read the books.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But I love the movies. I love them. Okay, next. This was one of my recent rereads. This is one of my go-to books when I'm, like, you know, like, stressed or in a reading slump. And that is The False Prince. I love it. So it's not quite God tier. I mean, here's the thing. Like, you know, it's great. It's very entertaining, but it is very predictable. But, like, I'm willing to overlook that just because I enjoy the story and, like, the characters so much. So I'm between almost God and great here. I think I've reread it so many times. I think it deserves almost God. I love it. It's like, it's about, like, these orphans that are, you know, plucked from their orphanages and, you know, chosen to, like, compete to become Jaren, like, the long lost prince. And this like wealthy noble guy is like trying to like, you know, turn them into that so he can like, you know, rule like through them. And it's fun. It's just a fun story, and I hope more people read it. And I think it's supposed to come out in October. There's like the author's writing a 4th one, and like, you know, same thing about like the 4th or the 3rd Six of Crows book. I'm like cautiously optimistic. Like I hope it's good, but like I just, you know, it wrapped up very well. This is a very satisfying like trilogy for me. So I don't want the 4th book to ruin that.
All right. Oh, I have not read this book.
I like, that's very like nothing book to me, because I read this like years ago, and I think it's a series, but I only read the first one because I was just like meh about it. Like, it's supposed to like follow this like girl, and it's like there was like some plague. Wow, relatable. And like if you like survived it, you were like marked somehow, and you got like magical powers, and you were kind of like shunned by society because of it. I know like Marie Lou's books are very popular, but I just like I wasn't feeling it. Like it's very meh, and like I couldn't really tell you much about like what happened in it. So I don't think it's bad. I think it's just meh, simply because I don't remember much about it.
Next we have A Winter's Promise by Crystal Davos. I just read the first book. I bought the second one. I haven't read it yet, but I really liked it. Gosh, it's hard though, because the first half of this book, I think, was like hard to get into, because there were some things that just kind of got lost in translation. Like, you can tell reading it that, like, because first of all, like, this book is a French novel, and it was translated into English. There were just some, like, phrasing or, like, and words that were, like, used awkwardly, I think. Like, for example, like, there's a moment in the very, very, very beginning where the main character is lamenting about how she doesn't want to get married to someone she doesn't know, and her older sister, who's more of, like, an elitist or socialite, she's like, she's telling her, like, oh, don't be so snobby about it, but instead in the book she says, don't be such an egoist. And that phrasing was really awkward to me, because it's like, people don't really talk like that. And it wasn't like the greatest translated book for me, but like halfway through, when the stakes got higher and like you got to know the characters more and the plot started to roll in, then it got me, and I was like, wow, I'm actually really hooked on this now, and the world is so fascinating, and the political intrigue is also really new and fresh and fascinating, and I really do like the main character, because it's one of those main characters that's really refreshing in YA. She is not the loud, brash, like, hard-headed, fight the man type of female character. Like, she's not the revolutionary leader by any means. She is more quiet. She is more reserved and like hard to read sometimes, and she's like, she thinks a lot before she speaks, and that is very, very refreshing. And I liked her dynamic with her main love interest, and that's another like really interesting relationship that I'm keen to explore in the next book. So I'm hyped for it. So for now, I just from the first book alone, I'm gonna say it's great, because that's how much of an impression it left on me. It was good. It got me. But anyway.
Alrighty. Well, here we go. The Maze Runner. I read this a while ago. It was kind of during that like dystopian phase, but I was already like kind of getting over it at that point. And I read the first one, and I really liked it. And then like they get out of the maze, and like, okay, like spoilers, but turns out it's a dystopian novel, and I'm like, oh my god, like, James Dashner, you really got me here. And then after that, I felt like it kind of just, like, went downhill, and I didn't really enjoy the second and the third one that much. Like, I felt like the plot kind of just, like, meandered on, and it didn't really have a great structure like the first one did. And so, I would put this in, I don't know, like, I would say the first one was good, but I would say the rest of it was, like, meh. Okay, I'm gonna, it's going in meh. It's, because I wouldn't reread it, like, it's, yeah. Sorry.
And then next we have Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This is her most recent standalone fantasy. And you would probably be thinking that based on the cover, like, it is, like, a continuation of Uprooted, but it's not. Actually, like, Uprooted and Spinning Silver have nothing to do with each other. They are both standalones, but they are kind of like sister books in a way, because they're both, like, fairy tale related. But Spinning Silver, unlike Uprooted, is a fairy tale retelling. It is based on Rumpelstiltskin, but I think the way that Naomi Novik translates, like, the Rumpelstiltskin fairy tale into, like, more relevant, like, real world drama was really interesting. The main character is a Jewish moneylender who takes up the business after her father is unable to, like, collect debts from people, so she does it, and so she creates this reputation for herself that she's able to turn silver into gold because of the way she does her job, and she attracts the attention of this, like, weird, like, winter fairy creature called, like, a Steric King, and basically he's like the Rumpelstiltskin, and he comes to her with a challenge and says, like, oh, if you, like, I need you to turn all of this silver into gold in, like, 3 days, and then I'll make you my bride. And that's kind of the hook of it. But she's not the only main character. There's actually, like, 2 other, might be more than that. There's, like, a lot of perspectives. This is a multi-POV book, and, like, they're mostly women, but they're all really good, well-written characters, and they all have really strong familial bonds with each other, and there's strong friendships that form in this, and they each have their own little subplot that they're dealing with, but it all comes together in the end, and it was so good, and I loved it, and I didn't love it quite as much as Uprooted, but still enough that it left a very deep impression of me. So, like, I would put this in almost God, because, yeah, again, like, it was, like, I don't normally like fairy tale retellings, but I liked this one, and I also think maybe it's because it was not, like, another Snow White retelling or another Beauty and the Beast retelling, because those have been done to death. Like, I can't even name all of them, like, off the top of my head, because there's so many, but, like, this was Rumpelstiltskin, so it was different, and that's, I think, why I was more keen to give it a shot, and it was just really good. Like, I would read it for, if you really like, you know, strong, like, female characters and strong, like, female bonds and friendships, like, this is a really good book to read. Yeah.
All right, well, next we go to one of my favorite series, The Thief. Okay, we gotta go. So, we up here. I'm between God and almost God, because there are some books in this series that I enjoyed more than others. So, I think, well, this is hard. I need a category right in between. Because here's the thing, like, but, you know, for my taste, there's, like, an exception to every rule. Like, you know, I say I hate when the main character changes between books, right? Well, that happens, like, in this series. Like, we have, like, a couple different main characters throughout the series. And I just, I like it in this series because I understand why the author did it, because it still always comes back to the original main character, Jen. And it all comes full circle. And then the last book that's supposed to come out, hopefully this year, is also back to Jen's perspective. So I'm hoping it'll be a nice little bow on top.
I've read this book too, or all of the books. I'm caught up, but, like, I wouldn't put it in God tier, because like maybe it's just because, like, the difference between, like, my taste and your taste. Like, for me, like, it wasn't, like, it didn't leave that much of an impression on me, but like, I do think that the intricacy of the plot is, like, makes it, like, almost God, because I, like, you didn't like the whole, like, switching perspectives from book to book, and, like, you had read The Thief before but never read the other ones,
right?
And then you gave it a chance and really liked it,
I loved it.
And I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested to see how it ends, just because it seems like all of these different, like dots are gonna be connected, and it's gonna be hype. So.
And, like, I trust Megan Walton Turner. Like, I know she knows what she's doing. Like, I feel like she's always, like, 5 steps ahead of the reader, which is great. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I can agree with Almost God. I can agree with that, because I think, because, like, the first time I read it, like, I was, like, a bit apprehensive, and, like, there was, you know, definitely she also gets me with a plot twist. I did not see it coming. Like, I had to put the book down for a second because I was like, what? And then, yeah, I only read the first two, and then, like, many years later, I picked up the series again, and I was like, wow, this is great. But I can agree with Almost God, because it does, like, you know, it has some, like, weird, like, flukes here and there. But I love the characters, and that's ultimately why I love the series so much.
Yeah, nice. Oh, and I have another Graveyard book.
Graveyard book.
To.
Yeah, I like, this is like a nice quick standalone to read by Neil Gaiman. It just like follows this boy that like grows up in a graveyard and is like raised by ghosts. It was like a nice story. I would say it was like great, because it for me it wasn't like the most like memorable book I've ever read, but I really liked it. So yeah.
Next we have The School for Good and Evil by Soman Shinani, and oh gosh, this is also another weird book, because I really, really liked the first one. Like, by the way, this is a middle grade fantasy. It's about these two girls who are in this world where every year, like, 2 children are taken from the village in the middle of the night, and what is said is that these 2 children end up going to 2 like parallel schools, where one of them goes to a school for evil, which is for like fairy tale villains, and the other is a school for good, which is where like fairy tale princes and princesses go to. And the 2 girls, Agatha and, I wanted to say Christy for a second, no. Agatha and Sophie, they end up in the schools opposite of the ones they thought they were going to. So that kind of stirs the pot a little bit, and the book is a lot about like what makes good versus evil, and how like characters aren't always as they appear to be, and it's like there's a lot of morally gray characters. I personally love the female friendship between these 2 girls, and the like ups and downs that they go through, and how like at the end of the day the only thing that is important is each other, and I love that, and that has such a good message for me. But then, like, the sequels happened, and the second one was good, not as good as the first one. The third one was better, and I thought was a pretty, actually good conclusion. And then the fourth one was like, they did the thing where it had a good conclusion, and then they continued it, and it didn't need to be continued, and so now we have all this extra drama that I don't know why I'm dealing with it. And then the fifth one is like, it's a filler book, which I don't like, and then the last one, the final one, has not come out yet, and I'm like nervous because it could go either way for me. Like, I don't like the last 3 books as much as the first 3, but like while it was just a trilogy, I liked it, and I would put it in good. It's good. Like, yeah, like if you're in the mood for like a really fun like fairy tale twist, like I would recommend this book. And again, like the female friendship is definitely like worth it.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it's been a hot second since I have read this, but we've included it on the list because we just watched His Dark Materials, which is a great TV show, by the way. And so I like this book. I think the first one is probably the strongest of the series. I'm between good and great. Because it's been such a long time and I don't remember it that well, I might have to go with good. But that might change if I reread it sometime soon. But yeah.
Next is The Hobbit, which is... It was J.R.R. Tolkien wrote this before he wrote the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but it is kind of like a prequel. You've read this, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I really liked it. I enjoyed this more than I did the Lord of the Rings. I would argue I think it's like around here, like great, like, because I liked it. The writing style is really different because it is not like this big dense like epic fantasy. It's more like kind of a one time like fairy tale, like to tell as a bedtime story to your son, which is exactly what he did before he wrote it all down and made it into a novel. But I liked it. It was fun, and I enjoyed the characters, and I just thought it was like one fun event that led to another, and then the ending was sad, but I liked it.
For me, it's good. Solely because, okay, spoiler alert, like, you've had plenty of time to read it, so I don't feel bad spoiling this, but at the end, at the big battle, like, Bilbo literally, like, gets hit in the head with a rock and then wakes up, and it's, like, over, and then it's like, oh, yeah, like, so-and-so, like, they're dead, and, like, you missed it, and you're like, oh.
Like, I didn't have a problem with that as much because, like, Bilbo was not going to be useful at all in the battle anyway because he's not a soldier, he's not a warrior, he's the stealth guy, you know, he's kind of like the party's rogue, and he's, you know, he's the one that goes in and steals things, and that's fine, and I like that, and it was mostly just about, like, hey, like, we're fighting a dragon.
I just felt like there was, like a big chunk of time missing that I wanted to account for. But, yeah, and then same thing. Like, the writing style is just, like, a bit, like, old-fashioned for me, and I think that kind of, like, turns me off a little bit. But I still, I appreciate it for what it is.
Okay. Like, I'll put this in good because... Like, I do like it more than Lord of the Rings, but I think, like, because Lord of the Rings is, like, such a huge, like, cultural phenomenon, and, like, it does deserve, like, a tier above The Hobbit, but, like, I did enjoy The Hobbit, and I think it is because it is meant for, like, a younger, like, audience, like, more like a middle grade book, you could say, like, that is why I got into it, because there weren't, like, big, long stretches of passages about trees, and it just kind of got to the point, and I like that.
There were still pages in Elvish, I'm pretty sure, though.
There were, but not as much, and it's a much shorter book, so... Anyway. Oh, so next up is The Girl of Fire and Thorns by Ray Carson, and I'm comfortable putting this in... Actually, no. Okay, no, now I need to be a little bit more decisive. I don't know. It's, like, between good and meh for me. Like, it's... I'm gonna put it in meh. Like, it was entertaining. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars, but it's, like, I think, like, around the middle, like, it went into a direction that I didn't like, because The Girl of Fire and Thorns I liked it because, again, the main character was a refreshing take on the YA female protagonist, because she's actually, like, she's not, like, super, like, conventionally pretty. She has a weight problem that plays a huge part in her story arc throughout the book, which I thought was interesting, and, like, she is, like, kind of a chosen one, but there is a lot of her that she, like, a lot of authority and respect that she earns herself, and not just because she is a chosen one, and I also like that, and I think, like, in the beginning I was more invested because it was more about political intrigue, and she's whisked away to, like, be married to this king from, like, a neighboring kingdom that's far away from her home, and she has no idea about, like, what she's thrown into, and the king is keeping her secret, and she doesn't know why, and all of that I was having a lot of fun figuring out. And she was, like, stepping into the court in, like, her own, like, subtle way, where she was, like, kind of, like, trying to play the game without really knowing what the rules were, and there was, like, a lot of disadvantage for her because, like, people were making fun of her for her weight, and she was making a lot of rivals, and I liked that, and I wanted to see where it was going to go, and I was like, okay, the king has got to have a plan, there's got to be a reason for all of this, and then in the end, it goes into a different direction, because she actually leaves the court and all the political intrigue and becomes more of a revolutionary leader in the more conventional YA sense, and I was like, no, this was interesting before you did that, and then there wasn't a big grand plan at the end, and I was like, oh, that was disappointing, so, meh.
Alright, well, okay, we're gonna have pretty, like, fairly different opinions.
Yes.
It's probably gonna go in trash for you.
No, actually, I wouldn't put it in trash.
Really?
Like, I don't think it's bad. Like, I don't like The Hunger Games.
Mm-hmm.
I read it, and it was not, like, I didn't really understand the hype, mostly because I did not like the characters. I did not like the world building at all, and I honestly thought that the violence, which is what people liked this book for, was kind of tame for a YA book. Like, I have definitely read more, like, worse violence in other YA books than in The Hunger Games, and so it kind of took me by surprise, and I didn't like any of the sequels either, so I would put it in, like, bad or even, like, meh at the very highest, because I don't get it. Like,
for me, I would put it in, like, good. Like, you know, I enjoyed the first 2 books. I didn't like Mockingjay, though. But, like, it's, like, another thing. It's, like, you know, it wasn't as, like, influential in my life as, say, like, you know, like, Twilight was. But, like, I guess, like, I appreciated, like, the phase that it was in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and like, you know, by Mockingjay I was kind of over it because the book wasn't that good. But like I think it's just because like I have like fond memories of like seeing the movies with my friends and like kind of like talking about them at school. Like for me it's good. It's good. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'll leave it in good because like other people like it and I know I'm the minority, so.
All right, and this one needs no introduction. I'm putting it right in trash. I know like this is a really popular booktube book, probably like the most popular booktube book. But I read like it's been a while. It's like probably I don't know, like 8 years ago. I read this series and I didn't finish it, but I read up I think the first like I definitely read the original trilogy, and I read the one after that. I think I stopped at the 5th one because something happened in the book, and it was one of those things that I don't really like, so I was just like, nope. And I closed it, and I never picked it up again, but I just like, I guess there were like parts of the book I enjoyed because obviously like I read like 4.5 of them, but like, no, I don't look back on that series like very fondly. And yeah, I feel like a lot of the plot lines are questionable. At incest. I don't like it. So, yep, that's why it's there.
Okay, next is Small Spaces, which is Catherine Arden's first middle grade series, and I liked it. It was cute. It's not the greatest thing that's ever been written, and I actually think that maybe like Catherine Arden kind of struggled with simplifying her writing style down to where it's like suitable for a middle grade audience, because like Bear and the Nightingale is so rich in its wording and its prose, I should say. But, like, Small Spaces, it's, like, definitely on the lower, like, spectrum of middle grade. We're probably for, like, 8 to 10-year-olds. And so it's, like, I don't know. Like, her dialogue and her wording is a little clunky because I think she's, like, she had to backspace a lot and be like, no, I can't use that word because it's too grown up. But, no, it was cute. It's actually more, like, thriller horror. And that's what I was really into. It's, like, about 3 kids who go to this cornfield for like a field trip. They go to a farm. Their bus breaks down on their way home, and then a creepy fog rolls in. And then cue the bus driver, the creepy bus driver, saying like, "Oh, you have to leave, or else they'll come for you." And sure enough, like they leave. They're the only ones to leave from their school bus, and then all the children in the school bus disappear. And they're like, "What's happening?" And then basically, like the monster in this book that they're fighting is like a bunch of scarecrows that come to life, and it's. Honestly, I liked it. It was cute, and, like, the main villain is, like, a really interesting kind of, like, trickster character. The second book, it takes place in a different, like, setting, and there are different monsters that they have to fight, but overall, like, a solid middle grade series. I think it's, like, on par with, like, City of Ghosts. Like, you could read those 2 books back to back, and it's, like, kind of a similar vibe. Pretty cool. But, yeah.
Oh, okay. I read this book, like, a long time ago. Well, it was actually freshman year. I don't know, like, I picked this up because it was by Joe Abercrombie, and he's obviously a very popular fantasy author. God, I'm trying to think what this is even about, because I was very, like, indifferent. I remember it was, like, about this, like, young guy who is king, but, like, he was born with, like, a birth defect, and he, like, didn't have, like, his hand, like, fully developed. Which I thought was, like, interesting, and that was, like, what drew me to, like, this Joe Abercrombie book specifically. But I just was kind of very indifferent about the main character. Like, I was kind of indifferent about the world. The writing wasn't bad. I didn't love the story, so I'm gonna put it in meh. Oh, and I read the second one, too, and it did the thing where it changed main characters. Couldn't tell you anything about the second main character because I don't remember him, probably because I was too angry that the main character switched, because same thing, like the first guy was kind of growing on me and I was like, okay, I think I could like this more in the second book, but then it's like, nope. So.
Okay, so the last book that we're doing is Meresi by Maria Tershanoff, which is a Finnish YA fantasy trilogy that has been translated into English, and I feel like this is kind of obscure on BookTube because I don't see a lot of people talking about it. Not even on Goodreads. Like, it really doesn't have that many reviews on Goodreads either. But it's gaining traction because it's a really, really well-written feminist fantasy series. It's, like, most of the characters are, like, it's pretty much like an all-female, like, ensemble, like, character list. But it's really, really good, and the first book is about, like, this girl named Moresi who lives on this island that's only inhabited by women, and it's sort of like a sanctuary for women who are, like, from abused households or patriarchal societies, and they all come to this island to gain knowledge and education and just, or to live, like, peacefully free of abuse and oppression. And then one day, a girl comes to the island and she is a fugitive. She is being pursued by, like, this army of men, and it's this story of friendship between Moresi and this other girl and working together and the whole island coming together to, like, protect her. And it's a really beautiful story. The second book is more of a prequel. It takes place, like, centuries earlier, how this island was founded by, like, the first women who came there, and that book is way more brutal because it's like the world is expanded upon, and you get to see all these different, like, societies from around the world and how they treat women. And then the last book is a return to Moresi, and it's like her leaving the island and trying to bring education to her illiterate hometown. And it's so, like, interesting because I've never really read a book series that was like this. It's feminist in a really subtle way, and it has a lot of emphasis on the characters, and it's a very character-driven book. I solidly recommend. It's not, like, the greatest book series that I've read, but it is solid. It is good. Like, yeah.
All right, here's our final consensus here. Yeah. We got a God tier. We mostly, like, the good and the meh tier seem to have won out.
Yeah, that's kind of how I pictured it, you know.
I think it's legit. So
wow.
Yeah. I like doing this. It kind of made me, like, kind of reevaluate, like, all the series, like, I've read in a different way. So it's interesting to kind of compare them to one another because, like, you know, like, if you give something a 4 on Goodreads, like, I feel like, you know, there's, like, very, like, that's across the board, you know, like, a 4 for me is, like, that's a very big range that could be from, like, almost God to, like, good.
Yeah.
So it was nice to, like, break things down into, like, finer categories.
Yeah, I agree.
Alrighty, well, if you watch this whole video, thanks. Kudos to you. So that is all.
Yeah, thank you for joining us and during this quarantine time. Hopefully we'll get more videos out to you soon because what else do we have to do?
Yep, and tell us what you're reading, and if anyone else has done, like, tier videos, like put a link in the comments because we'd love to see them.
Yeah.
So yes, adios, happy reading, everybody.
Bye.